Hey everyone, welcome back to the podcast. Today, I am super excited to have Chris Maughan, who is what's the best way? A high-flying south of France resident who rents out super yachts and super villas to celebrities and is well versed in the short-term rental space. Founder of the iPRAC trust model system, which we'll no doubt touch on too. So, Chris, super excited to have you on the podcast, and I'm sure the listeners are going to really get a lot of value from this episode.
Okay, pleasure to be here, Ryan. Thanks for inviting me on.
So, a bit of background. Chris and I literally met probably about a month or so ago now on Clubhouse as we were doing the Airbnb 24-hour marathon, and it became apparent that we're both from the same region. So the accents kind of give that away. But Chris has... Well, Chris, do you want to tell them you've moved to south of France? How did you end up there? What took you there? And why have you stayed there?
Yeah, okay. Well, originally I'm from Durham. And I used to work for Bannatyne's health clubs, Duncan Bannatyne. I was his number 2. And so I oversaw all of the operations in the northeast, Darlington, Durham, Newcastle, Quayside clubs. And he decided that he wanted to try to build a health club down in the south of France in a place called Antibes, which is just outside of Cannes. And I came down here to do all the research, the due diligence, and that took about 7 months. And then we realized that wasn't going to happen with all of the French charges and different things. It just didn't stack up. And then he kind of said to me, okay, no problem, let's get yourself back to Darlington, which after 7 months and living in the south of France, that kind of came a bit of I was like, no, I've got a decision to make here. Sharing an office with him. Don't get me wrong, I learned a lot from him, but he was a hard man to work for. And then I just decided, I said, no, you know what? There's a gap in the market down here for a real high-end corporate, short-term rental agency. So I took the plunge and I just said, no, I've decided I'm not going to come back, and I'm going to stay here. And that was it. And started the journey. So that was 20 years ago.
Duncan Bannatyne was my neighbour. Next door neighbour.
Was he? Where? Because he's got a few houses. So I mean.
Yeah, well, at Wynyard when he.
Wynyard, yeah.
So next door to my parents' house. Yeah, he used to wander around in his robe, in his glass-fronted. And like he used to play the golf course, and you could see him just wandering around in his dressing gown. But
he's a good, great guy. If you get to know him, if you understand him, you know what I mean. Yeah. But like most self-made millionaires, they have their own traits. There's a reason why they get there. And he was very on the ball with his figures. Figures were his thing. And you had to deliver the figures, and it was good. Learned a lot. But being number 2, but yeah, being 6-7 months here, just kind of sunshine, and you could just see the money down here, and the opportunity. And I just thought, no, I've got to. It was just knocking on the door,
So how did you get started? What was the first plunge? How did you get started?
Well, I realized that there was how Cannes works, how Cannes operates is it's a festival town. So like you've got starting from March right the way through to September, October, you've got big international festivals, like the Cannes Film Festival, Cannes Lions, MIPIM. So all of a sudden the town's dead. And then all of a sudden, and there's just a quick, over a weekend, like 20,000 people descend in Cannes, and there's only 7,000 hotel rooms of 3-star and above. So all of a sudden you've got 13,000 people looking for half decent accommodation. And that was really hard 20 years ago. There was some good apartments, but not many. And I started to look at it thinking there's a gap in the market to cater for the corporate, not summer rentals, but for the corporate. So I started just approaching a couple of owners who had properties and a couple of residences, and started to look at building a website geared towards corporate. And that was how it started, really. I rented a little studio. I slept on the floor of that, had a little computer in the corner, that kind of thing. And just built it from there. But it was all about people who were wanting to rent their property like it is today. people want a revenue from their investment, you know. So a lot of the properties were run down. They weren't managed properly. They weren't suitable for corporates, you know. Like French people would leave. We would walk in sometimes to do a visit to see if we were going to rent the property, and like the wardrobe's full of like the granddad's clothes and picture of the family on top of the telly and stuff like that, you know. And we're like, well, all this just can't. But people, their mentality was that this is rentable. This is rentable. And I was like, this isn't rentable to a corporate. Corporate needs like hotel standard of like hotel suites, spacious, minimalistic properties, white, clear, you know, like that kind of feeling. And there wasn't any. So that was where the gap was. And I just started building that, you know, and then we helped investors buy, renovate, rent. And it just kind of built from there. It was a long process, you know what I mean? But there was a gap. And that was the thing, you know. But a lot of people were saying, oh, don't do that. You know, there's so many people that are already doing that. And I just knew, you know, from when I was young, I knew people used, you know, some great advice when somebody said there's always room for the best. And that's like, and that kind of always stuck with me. I'm never afraid to try something, even though there's other people doing it. You know, I think I can be the best at this.
Yeah, I think we had a lot of that last year over here. Well, not last year, probably the year before, where, you know, the short-term rental game's saturated. Everyone's doing it. You know, you can never make money out of it. And, you know, as you say, I think what people have in their mind as a saturation point and what the actual true saturation point is probably like two totally different figures. And, you know, we haven't got that now. There's a lot of operators, and I'm sure it's the same down your neck of the woods, have pulled out the market or flipped them into standard tenancies and just trying to get some money back into their properties. But, you know, it's so the supply is definitely less at the minute. But yeah, I think I had that as well. You know, oh, you don't want to be getting that game. There's too many people in that game already. You know, don't do this. You'll never make any money out of that. And, you know, you just find your own little way, your own little niche, and you build your right partnerships. And then, you know, so for you, and we've talked about this offline plenty, but you're very MTV, Google, YouTube, all these big corporations. You're kind of one of their, I guess, partners in the accommodation when they come to these festivals. So
yeah,
how did that happen for you? And you know, what would you say won you those contracts? And you know,
well, it was apparent that was obviously big corporate clients coming down to Cannes. So that was like my thought process was like, I've got to get hold of these clients. These are the people we've got to be supplying, not somebody just wanting a 2-bed and then another person wanting a 1-bed. We had to get into this big corporate landslide of like big corporate clients like MTV, Google, all of these people who were sending like 60, 70 people down at the same time. And they wanted a standard, they wanted service, they wanted everything to be, you know, on point. So it was all about kind of, you know, building a website. I believe that our website was our shop window because nobody could really see who we were. So I think our website, I kind of realized that if our website wasn't on point to a level of like being able to cater for corporate, then corporates wouldn't look at us as a supplier. So that was the first aspect. We had to look like we were geared up for a corporate. So the language on our website, the photos we used, there was a lot of psychology involved in trying to build the website to a corporate mindset. So that was the first thing. And then after that, it was more of the fact as, you know, MTV was the first client that we landed, the big one. And I started, and then a lot of people are talking about this today, of like how to get into that corporate, you know, contractors, corporate world and things like that. And I think where we found is, and I made a lot of mistakes at the start, but you have to start off with that phone call. I mean, there wasn't, you know, we're going back 17 years now. So there wasn't the same techniques as, you know, LinkedIn wasn't as big. Not everybody was on LinkedIn, and, you know, social media wasn't as big. So you had to use like the old fashioned kind of way of just picking up just pick the phone up, you know, and that was something that I was quite good at because I'd already been in like health club sales, which is, you know, and it's all about needs analysis, finding out what the client's looking for, what they need. But it's all about getting to the right person, the decision maker. That's the key. If you're not speaking to the right person in the business, then you're just wasting your time. So you've got to be very quick at identifying who you're speaking to. You know, that's the key. Are you responsible for this? And they will come back and tell you no. And if they say no, then you need to be going on. You can't be selling to that person. There's no point. You know what I mean? You've got to be turning around and putting into her mind or his mind that you are on the phone because you can benefit the company that she works for. That's it. Then you've got to go on to the next step. Because otherwise, if she just thinks you're a time waster and her company's not going to benefit, then she's just going to go, okay, yeah, whatever, you know, and then that phone call might be wasted and you're not getting to the next level. It's all about getting to the next step, you know, in the process. So it's how you spoke to that first person. And a lot of the time that was trial and error. I spoke to them the wrong way and didn't get through. But eventually you get put to that person and then they get put to another one. And I think MTV took me about 6 weeks from being on the phone twice a day for 6 weeks to get to this person eventually in New York who basically turned around and said, yeah, my name's Melanie. I'm in charge of all the corporate accommodation for MTV. How can I help?
And that
was it.
Yeah, that's it's really interesting there, because I guess the question is why did you keep going? Because so many people would have quit, right?
Well, I don't know. I think that's just like, you know, your will to succeed, isn't it? You plant a seed in your head, and you know that you're just going to go to the end. You know, there's no until that person I had in my mind, until the person who's responsible for accommodation in Cannes told me no, there was always a possibility it was a yes.
Yeah,
that was my. So even somebody saying, "Oh, I don't know whether we do that," or "We don't know what." No, but I need to hear that from the person who booked, because I know you come to Cannes. I know you come to Cannes. Yeah. So somebody's responsible for housing all of you. You don't do it on your own. Somebody's responsible, and I need to speak to that person. So once I spoke to that person, I knew there was no giving up on that way until I'd spoke. If I'd spoke to that person said no, even then I probably wouldn't have give up. I probably would have, said, let me just rent 5 apartments to you, just so you can see the standard and the service we give. I don't believe in no. I think that, I think you should be always looking to turn a no into a yes, and that was just the relentlessness of getting there. But once I got to that person, then it was about, I believe that we can help you increase your staff productivity while they're in Cannes through better accommodation, better service, getting a better night's sleep, so that you can then solely rely on one company to provide all of your transportation, all your logistics, your cleaning, your transport, airport transfers, your properties, all within a radius of where you need to be within Cannes. And once you tick all them boxes, they're kind of got a corporate mindset, so they're not budget first. Yeah. Obviously budget does come into it. Anybody who says it doesn't is lying, but it's not their driving force. Their driving force is to get a seamless provider, a supplier who can deliver. Same with anything that they do. If they're building their stand in the events space, they want somebody who can deliver that seamlessly on point. Yeah. So once I spoke to her, she was all over it. She was like, I've needed this conversation. She was looking for us, really, all the time. Yeah. We were trying to find her. And once we got MTV, we then leveraged that logo on our homepage of our website, basically saying that we're the official supplier of MTV. And once you've got that, then Google came on board and said, well, look, if they're doing all the accommodation for MTV, they've got to be doing something right. Mm-hmm. And our job was just basically to say that we don't do summer rentals. We are a corporate agency and we're corporate minded, and that's all we want to do. We just want to deliver corporate service. And they were all over it. And it just built like that, just matching the mindset of corporate. That's key. You can't be like, oh, I'm summer rentals, I'm weekends, I'm corporate. I'm not. If you concentrate on a specific niche, a specific market, then it might take you longer to get good at it. But once you get good at it, that's a solid market that you're in, and it's never going anywhere. If you try to do a little bit of everything, you're never good at one. You never become renowned for a corporate accommodation.
The expert provider in that field. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. So what? So obviously you mentioned the season there where they do pile in. What do you kind of do in the seasons when they're not? Are they just sat empty and you accept that, or?
Yeah, sometimes we don't. Like I said, we were a corporate agency, so we were doing a lot of the event side of it as well. So a lot of our during the downtimes, a lot of that was logistics and planning for the next year, because these big corporates, some of them, like Google, was sending like 120 people, and all arriving within 2 days of each other. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of logistics to manage, of like 120 people arriving on different flights, all getting picked up from the airport, all getting delivered to different addresses. There's there's none of this, and everybody gets checked in.
Yeah, it's not just a lockbox on the door, and you say, get yourself to the front door and check yourself.
No. So we're checking in. I think the biggest check-in weekend we ever did was during Cannes Lions, and we did just from a Friday to a Sunday, we did just under 410 check-ins.
Right. Wow.
So that shows just the logistics side of it. So you're working on that. 4 or 5 months prior to the festival, anyway. So
get it all. It's like it is like they're like, well, it's an event. It is an event, isn't it? And you've got to plan for the event, just like the Cannes Film Festival is planning for the event, the night, the dinner, the stage, whatever it is. It's the same, I guess. And so
there's a lot of pre-work. It's a lot of logistics that you've got to plan to make sure that you deliver on that day, to make sure that everything's in place. And systems, we're constantly looking at how you can improve systems. Back then there was, PMS didn't really exist. You know what I mean? So, a lot of it, automation didn't exist. We were designing our own systems back then, and we were sitting after a festival. We would write down all of the problems that we had, so we could address them as a team and say how can we get better. And as we got better, we could invest more money in building our own system. So we actually built our own back office of how we did all of the reservations, how each client was contacted, and different things like that. So it was a lot of work.
And how does the back office and the in-house team look in terms of your operation? Obviously, you're at the top, and then what does that kind of look like behind the scenes?
Well, we've got 12 full-time staff, so they're like running out throughout the year. That's like, we've got congress managers, we've got event managers, we've got cleaning executives. We like to call them cleaning executives because they feel better about it. And then during the festival, we'll probably increase our staffing level to about 60.
Yeah,
because we have to zone. Cannes got from like one end of Cannes to the other. It's not long, but to be checking people in at on that constant basis. People have arrived, and like 10 minutes later, nobody else arriving. We had to zone all of the check-ins, so we might have like 10 check-in managers at that side of the town who are responsible only for that. And then so they're not having to go from north to south and back. It's just an absolute mess. But at the start, we were doing that. So we was having to get from the bottom of Cannes to the top, and afterwards they'd say that was ridiculous because
back to the bottom.
Yeah, but I was late for the check-in, and the client wasn't happy. So like, how do you solve that? It's like, okay, you have to zone it so you do not go out your zone. And if you're not out your zone, you can be at any front door within 7 minutes on your electronic scooter. So, that's how we had to plan it all, but, you get better at it all the time. But
logistics in this game is huge. And I mean, you're at the next level up. I mean, we're just on the self check-in system, but even the logistics of making that happen, you then add on picking up people from airports and, getting them checked in at the door and showing them around all the stuff and, getting them back to the airports when they're hungover and slept in and they're not out of their bed and the flight's due.
So it's all, it's all kind of, it's all in the data as well. I mean, we realize that if you've got the data of that client, then you can deliver, because that like 24 hours before their pickup of the airport, it's automatically, we've got a person in the office who literally texts. We've got a special automated system where you can text the number from the computer, and it sends that text with all of the that information of their flight, who they're sharing the car with, what the address that they're staying at, all of these different things, so they know when they get into the airport, they don't just say to the driver, right, take me to Cannes. They say, no, I'm sharing with Ryan and Steve. Where's Ryan and Steve? And we don't allow anybody to share a car who's not on the same flight. Otherwise, if the flight's delayed, then they're going to delay that one, So there's all these different logistics that we have check-in managers and hostesses in the airport to manage so they're like a holding area for like, okay, your driver's on his way, because you just traffic and different things can happen. So it's like a military operation type thing, and you've got to try to do it your best, and you get better every year.
Yeah.
Because you're working through the problems that you see.
Yeah. And so are you like me, where you kind of have come out of the operations and you just working on the business more now, or do you still find yourself getting very heavily involved in the operations?
I'm involved in it I would say I'm involved in it from an executive level in terms of dealing with these big clients, because I believe they need that.
Yeah.
I'm dealing with like Google and Twitter and Spotify, Disney, Fox, Microsoft, and these are kind of clients I've built over the years. So I believe that I have to stay in it at that level to make sure that we're keeping them clients.
Yeah.
But from an operational point of view, not so much. Got to keep your finger on it, of course. But over the time, you've got to train the right people so that you can't run an operation like that on your own. You know what I mean? You just can't. You can't. So you've got to have them people that you trust, who are fully trained, who understand your systems, your processes. And we've got a great, Congress manager who's like sits like under me, who's like the gateway from all of the problems, basically. So like she understands that it's very, very rare something goes above her to me, and and I structured it that way because I need to feel that freedom of being able to look at the business.
It's about protecting I talk about this. It's about protecting the key roles. So you can continue to harvest those relationships with the bigger clients. Absolutely. Which drives all the revenue in, and
that's it.
And but if your role's not getting protected, then you cannot invest in them, and potentially you can lose contracts. The whole thing could fall down.
Well, my mental space has been tapped into when it shouldn't be. So you've got to. I would advise anybody who's scaling to a certain level to get that gateway in, and work on that gateway. I was on a clubhouse the other day talking about it. You've got to, a lot of people saying about my phone's always on, or I never feel switched off, and that's just I'm not saying it's bad management, but you have to find that means either
it's not scalable.
Either one, you don't trust your number two, to turn your phone off and say no, it's in her or his hands, or you feel that's like a trust factor, or you haven't structured your processes correctly. And it's only two things, there's people out there who are running multi-million pound businesses with like hundreds and hundreds of staff. There's a reason why they can do that. And it's because of the structure of the company and the trust at the different levels. Like I can't be getting involved in my number two's business. She can't get involved with mine. We've all got our jobs, but that's all been outlined previously with the right processes. So, generally, I'll get a call from her, but we've got a good system in place where that gateway is. So like you say, I can harvest the business. I'm mentally free to look at where we're going wrong, where we're going right, what we can invest in, what we can't, and that makes me, but also I wanted to do that to be able to release some of my time to spend with my family, because I thought that was getting abused when I was building the business, and 2008, I nearly lost everything. Nearly lost your wife and your kids, and it's like, that's not worth it.
Yeah.
So you've got to find that balance of like where you want to get to, but also be able to free up your time as well, and make sure it is free time. It's not like you walk. It's not like I don't want to. I don't want to be walking around the park with my 7-year-old boy on the phone. That's not walking around the park with a 7-year-old boy. That's walking around the park with my 7-year-old boy and a telephone. It's not the same. So it's like, for me, they were, but again, you can never just start and get to that level. Like I'm like that today because I've spent 20 years of all of the ups and downs and trying to tweak the processes and all of these different things to get to where you are. I'm still not perfect at it, but
Yeah.
you've got to be constantly freeing up your time to be able to see where the business is going right or wrong, or what direction it's going in, to be able to see where you're going.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm firmly on board with all that, and I think you know, if you do want to scale, and you can scale quite quickly in this game now, especially, it's so much easier now to probably, as you said, contact landlords, contact owners, contact developers, and pick up properties and then run them in a certain strategy and make money from them, and everybody wins from it. Which is, you know, I think in many industries there's normally a winner and a loser, whereas I think in our industry there are two winners for every sort of partnership that's created typically. And you know, you don't have that exchange battle where it's like, oh well, if I win you lose.
Yes.
You know, we have a win-win. I think that's why it can grow quite quickly. And so yeah, so I know we've talked a lot about it offline. Obviously 2020 hasn't been ideal for us, and especially for you with the festivals and stuff getting cancelled. They're not coming back this year, so you've told me before. Are you doing anything with the properties different just to kind of get through, or is it just a case of where I know your big contracts don't want to lose the property, so they continue to book even though things aren't happening? Is it just a bit of a not time off type of year, but just like really get things robust, systemized, and ready for 2022?
Yeah. No, it's time off. Absolutely. I mean, it's, you know, that's what it is. We're not dealing with the logistics of a Congress. We're not dealing with the Congress. We had to deal with the owners of the properties that we manage at the start. But that was pretty straightforward in a way, because the festivals were cancelled. Everything just needed to be transferred over to a new contract for the following year, which was 2020 to 21. And now we're looking at doing the same 2021 to 2022 for the big one. So at the end of the day, we're kind of supporting the owners where we can.
Yeah.
And I think that's all we can do right now. I mean, I'm a big believer but at the same time, you know, I've got iPRAC as well, so that's kind of fills up a lot of my time being the CEO of iPRAC as well as AES. But I think you've just got to accept the situation, like you said, just to get as robust as you can in these downtimes of making sure that when things do come back, that you're ready to fly. You know, you're ready to go.
Yeah. Do you want to enlighten us a bit about iPRAC? I know I've been obviously watching from behind the scenes since we met, and you know, I can see what the great things that are happening there. Do you want to just tell the listeners a bit about what it is and
Sure.
why you believe in it so much? I think that's the main thing, because I see you're so passionate about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the idea came from like back in 2014 when the family was frauded here in Cannes. They lost £15,000 to a villa rental, and that kind of made me look into it a little bit more, thinking, how can somebody just lose 15 grand on a rental? This is my industry. This is what I love. And so I investigated it, found out it was happening all over the world, just, you know, people getting frauded, rental fraud. So I decided that something had to change. And I looked around and there was nothing. There was like no specific certification that legitimate operators could showcase that could give consumers confidence to book with them, and vice versa. You know, something for a professional operator to show the case that they're a credible, trustworthy property agent. So iPRAC was born, and that stands for International Property Rental Approval Certification. It's global. We're in 28 countries. Got members in 28 countries, and that's what we do. We certify trustworthy operators, and they show the iPRAC logo so that consumers can book with confidence through knowing that we guarantee that payments to that member. So many bookings are lost through the trust.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, and so many people don't realize it because they have that mindset of thinking, well, I'm a trustworthy operator, so automatically consumers should trust me. It doesn't work like that, because we don't know who our consumer is all of the time, and vice versa, our consumer doesn't know who we are, and getting them to pay directly us 4, 5, 6, 7 grand can be a bit daunting. You know, it's like, is my money safe? You know, what's going to happen when I get there? So what they need some kind of guarantee.
Yeah.
And that's what we do. You know, that's what.
And how do you protect yourself on the back end for the fraud money, if you know what I mean. So
Well,
if you're
we've got our
guaranteeing the
own,
money,
we've got underwriters. So we've got an insurance underwriter that underwrites all of the bookings, because when we go through that really robust process of approving a member, we go through a very lot of detail, a lot of supporting documents. So once our underwriter accepts that we've gone through that, our underwriter is quite happy to underwrite the insurance on that payment, knowing that that member is legitimate and they're not going to arrive and the property doesn't exist. So
yeah,
so that was a lot of work to get right as well. But we have to be able to provide the consumer that confidence and the guarantee, so that if something did happen, which wouldn't, and it hasn't happened in 5 years, but if it did, that there's an easy process for that member, that consumer, to get their money back.
Yeah. And do you say, is this a fit for a small, say, UK Airbnb business, or are we talking more like the villa, higher rental type stuff?
No, anybody who's in the short-term rental space, if you're a private owner with one property, or you're an agency with 200 properties, whatever it is, if you're in that short-term rental space, you can become iPRAC approved, because you're trustworthy, you're an operator, you want to showcase that. And that's where it all comes from. So there's no limit. We're a certification. We're not somebody who just looks to be approving, luxury villa management companies. We'll approve anybody who passes our robust, approval process if they're in the short-term rental sector.
Yeah.
So we're open for anybody. Anybody who's in that short-term space can come iPRAC approved. Yeah.
And have you got any statistics on how it improves conversion ratios on websites or anything like that? Or
we've got. Statistics show that for the members that we have across the 28 countries, there's an average of about a 40% increase in conversion rate through the booking, because consumers can register their booking on the platform, which shows that they're using the platform to secure their booking, which means they've booked with that member, that iPRAC member, because they trust them.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like where we do the statistics with the members. A lot of our members are looking at, they're probably losing 70% of their inquiries, not converting them into rentals, just because they get that, we'll come back to you. Oh, I'll speak to my husband, or, all of this kind of thing. But a lot of the time that comes down to trust. And they're just not comfortable in booking directly with you. So they might return to an OTA, they might go somewhere else, they might just not book at all. But if you can showcase trust and confidence and a payment guarantee from a third-party verification platform, then that gives them the confidence to say, well, this isn't just Ryan telling me he's great. This is a third-party verification platform that's confirming to me that Ryan is great and trustworthy. That's where the key comes in, So that's where the third-party verification factor comes in. That's
we live in this world of reviews and testimonials, don't we? So it's kind of another addition to that, really, which is just bolting on the business, but probably a bit more rubber stamp because it's official. And,
exactly.
You display it everywhere. I assume you put this all over your booking.coms, your Airbnbs, your Expedias as well, and as well as your own site.
Yeah, exactly. You market your iPRAC profile. People can book directly with you without problem. And this is what it's all about. It's all about creating that trust for people and confidence and guarantees that people can just book with you because they know that you're part of the iPRAC membership. And that's where, so we're and it's affordable to agents and private owners. So that's why you've got to use it as a tool to convert more inquiries into rentals through trust.
Yeah. Superb. Sounds good. Absolute pleasure to have you. I try and keep the episodes as short and sweet as possible.
It's been absolute
pleasure to have you. No doubt. I'm definitely coming to Cannes at some point. I'm going to take you up on one of those villas. And,
absolutely. Your pleasure.
And hopefully things start picking back up for us all, I think. I mean, we're on, as we record this, it's 16th of Feb. It might air a bit later on the podcast. We might even be out of lockdown by the time it airs on the podcast. Who knows? But hopefully the world is going to start coming back to normal a bit. I think there's definitely movements towards that here in the UK with the vaccines and stuff. But I think the sooner we all just get back to what we're good at, the better, and everyone gets to travel again. And I think there's going to be a huge travel boom. So if you are looking to get into this industry, I do think it's a good time to to get into it. And but if you're going to be in it as long as Chris has been, you've got to expect the ups and the downs, and ride the waves, and just make sure you set.
It's all about riding the waves. You know, there's no easy way to the end. You know, the end never comes, really, does it? You just got to learn on the way, man.
Yeah, no, super. Listen, Chris, how can people get in touch with you first and foremost?
Well, the best, if they want to go to it's Chris at i-prac.com or Chris at aeseventsgroup.com.
And you don't hang out on Facebook, you're not on Twitter, you're not on Instagram, but you are on LinkedIn.
LinkedIn, and I do a little bit of Clubhouse with you, Ryan, which is a pleasure. But I haven't got time for the others.
Fair it is. All right, buddy. I'll still speak to you soon, and thanks a million.
Absolute pleasure, Ryan. Thank you.
Cheers. Thanks, Paul.
Bye.